It's par for the course for what we've been dealing with.
Yeah.
As long as we've been recording here, so. Nothing too out of the ordinary here.
Yeah, so.
We haven't done one of those for a while.
We haven't. Because reading books takes a while.
Yeah, reading books just doesn't fit with the weekly content.
It really doesn't.
No.
That's not very weekly content creation of books.
I mean,
maybe that's a little foreshadowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
we do a little foreshadowing here.
we like to do a little foreshadowing around here. We like to have fun.
You got to finish Airman so we can talk about that.
Oh yeah, I did.
It's an easy read.
Yeah,
I mean, it's Owen Colfer, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's an easy read.
I had gotten. I think I started reading it prior to the move earlier this year, which tells you how long it's been since I've made a concerted effort to read. But yeah, I made it to about he's in prison. Spoilers, I guess. And he's learning how to survive. That's about as far as I got. So it was sort of that still first act, I guess.
Did you get to the part where you kill him with 3 shots of the leaf shield?
No, not quite.
Because you say the title Airman, and my brain instantly goes to Mega Man 2 boss. And from there, it jumps to the iconic internet Japanese fan song, I Cannot Defeat Airman.
See,
that just complains about how bad he is at the game.
Thanks to certain people who will remain unnamed, my brain now defaults to Dayman when I think of it. Anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I bet they're singing it right now.
Yes, I 100% guarantee it. Well, not 100%, but it's quite likely.
Do we take this opportunity to temporarily date ourselves and go against it?
I mean, it's been a bit running on, by the time you're listening to this, a month, likely. So, we're now a week after Thanksgiving recording this. So it'll likely be the week before Christmas by the time this comes out.
Likely.
If that's any
indication.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. And I did manage to sort out which episode is supposed to come out when, because I had screwed up in numbering the episodes for a couple there.
Uh-oh.
But I think I was able to piece it all back together, so we should be good now.
Imagine releasing them out of order, and now people got to figure out.
That would just be funny. I was like, okay, if I don't end up figuring this out right, it's not the end of the world, because then the bit just becomes funnier. Because one week they'll be saying, oh yeah, Thanksgiving next week, and then the next week it'll be like, yeah, Thanksgiving's in a couple weeks, and then it'll be like, yeah, just completely.
So how about
out of
that
sorts.
Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, right. It's March.
Welcome to March Madness.
That'd be so funny if we just accurately predicted the Super Bowl.
Man, the Vikings sure lost and didn't make it.
Yep. I mean, that's
not too hard.
That's low hanging fruit. We have to learn.
A big swing to say, oh, the Vikings win.
Yeah, we have to go for
You got to beat the Bears first.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! Don't even get me started.
That was a painful,
baby steps.
That was awful. Anyway, I feel we have to get our Simpsons game on. Where you just uncannily predict things years in the future via satire.
Like the part where we annex Canada and call it North or Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, life imitates art.
Yeah. I was watching an Alternate History Hub video because there was a referendum in Quebec, I think in the 90s, where they were talking about the French part of Canada legally separating from the rest of Canada and being independent. Mm-hmm. And it lost, but he's like, but what if it won? And then the funniest part about the video is he was like, honestly, this probably doesn't really change much. That's just how low impact Canada is.
Man.
Yeah.
Imagine an alternate history where Canada was basically the same as it is now. It's just there are 2 presidents of Canada now.
Mm-hmm. And the weird French Canadians, my homies, can have their own state.
My actual homies.
Yeah.
If you go back far enough.
Yep. My heritage.
Heritage.
So let's see what's timely right now. We
We
oh yeah, for the week after Thanksgiving, it's been a surprisingly pleasant few days of work
Oh yeah,
for me anyway.
sure. For you.
Staying busy. Getting stuff done. I'm still working on the same project I've been working on for 4 months, but I think we might be done with it for real this time. We'll see if people have feedback on it. But that's a good feeling always. Let's see. Oh yeah, I suppose we can talk about our Thanksgivings.
Now that we've had them.
Yeah, now that we've had them a month ago, maybe. As far as you know.
A week ago, a month ago.
Yeah. So
Some vague time in the past, Thanksgiving happened.
So yeah, the standard. Everybody came home for the most part, and then did the dinner and stuff on Thursday. Friday we split and stacked a bunch of firewood. That was kind of fun. 15-year-old me would not agree with that sentence, but I'm of an age
it's
now.
not your like full-time at-home job.
Right.
You're choosing to do it.
Yes.
And that choice plays a lot into
And
how
you know
much
what?
you can enjoy
It
something.
is fun to use a machine to break logs into pieces so you can light them on fire.
When you put it like that, I want in.
Mm-hmm. I think, well, you did do that with us a couple times,
I
didn't
think
you?
did I actually split?
There was one time I know you came over to hang
I
out.
may have been there while it happened.
Yeah.
He's the guest. Don't make him do it. I'm like,
Well, and then Dad's like, oh, no, I'll be fine. And so we did. I think it was at least the one occasion.
probably.
But yeah, no, that was, and then Friday, I also hung up the Christmas lights for Mom and Dad, and with a bit of help from Andre and his college buddy he brought from UMary. So that was fun. Got that all set up, and it looks rather fine if I do say so myself. We finally had to buy some new light strings because pretty much every other string of lights have like 4 or 5 feet of
Like
dead
the one
lights.
bad light that kills the circuit for the rest
Well,
of them following.
The weird thing is that they're not really built like that anymore.
Right, they aren't.
So these ones were just like,
They're all
well,
more
some of
in
them straight
parallel
up just
than
had
series.
bare or broken wires from being left out there too long
Lovely.
in the cold.
Fire
So,
hazard.
fire hazards, yeah. So, we bought some replacement stuff and some new hooks to hang them on the gutter and whatever. So it was fun.
What's a Christmas celebration without a little conflagration?
My niece watched Frosty the Snowman, I want to say 4 times in the span of 24 hours. She's just really into that, I guess, being 2 and all. So that was fun. That was basically Thanksgiving weekend.
I had a little more going on because I had family in from Chicago. My younger sister Rachel and her husband Jeremy, and their 2 kids. One of which is an external child. The other one is currently still internal. She's working on that. Which don't get to see them very often, more than like twice a year. So it was great to see them. Because they were in town and they won't be during Christmas, we had our little start sibling gift exchange Christmas thing going on. And that was fun. That was great. I gave my sister Joan both copies of West Side Story, both like versions, because she likes both, as well as like a card game. And I got Movie Night in a Box from my oldest sister Elena. She got me Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse,
The sequel.
the second one.
Part 2 of 3?
Well, the third one, Beyond, should be at some point.
Next year or the year after?
I doubt next year, given the work
The strike.
conditions of the people in there and how much they need to do.
And the Hollywood strikes and all that stuff.
Yeah, it'll probably be another 2 years at least.
Okay, so the one that reminded me, I was checking one of my sibling Christmas gifts arrived today, so I'll have to go
okay,
check
good.
the mailbox when we get done.
That the special mail shack they added to our apartment building.
Mm-hmm.
No, overall it was just a real good Christmas, or not Christmas, Thanksgiving.
We're not
Holiday,
quite.
I go
The
home
backlog
to.
isn't quite that big yet.
Anyway, we're a week out from Easter.
Yep. As we're recording this, it's Christmas, and you're likely getting ready for Ash Wednesday.
I can't get ready for 2025 is going to be such a great year.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Man, I can't wait to turn 30.
Jeez, dude.
Said nobody ever. Anyway, we got time. If
We
our
do
backlog gets that ridiculous,
Then
something's
we have
wrong.
a problem.
Yeah.
And the problem is James needs to get.
Well, if I had just remembered to
set an
upload.
alarm
That
or
would be like a
something.
case where you just like lost your hard drive for 4 years.
Yeah.
Because if we have an episode to release, we have a backlog that spans 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just you couldn't find the darn thing.
No. So,
Imagine like loading every episode of our podcast onto like a thumb drive or something, and then burying it in a time capsule. And then, like years later, when somebody digs it up,
it'd be funny if our podcast was the only remaining
the only
record
remaining
of some of these media that we are discussing. All people are going to know about Mega Man. Which one was it that you were just absolutely laying into?
No, I
Or
was laying into Metroid Other M during
Metroid
Saltcast.
Other M, that's what it was.
That's the bad one.
Yeah. That's like the only reference they have.
To anything of that series, even though we did another episode on it.
Yeah. Yep.
I could squeeze one more out of that series with the Prime games, though.
Yeah.
I just would want to make you guys play at least one of them.
Yeah. Let's see, Riley, your Thanksgiving was a little different
It
this
was
year.
a little bit different.
Did you and Bryant end up hanging out? What did you do?
No, we did not. Just my brother and I on Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
My mom is in Winona right now working.
As this video releases, she is in Winona.
I don't know.
Who knows? She'll probably be back by then. She was
Yeah.
only supposed to be down there a month in the first place, and then when she got there, they're like, we don't know why you're here. We don't have any work for you.
Oh.
It's a little bit of a miscommunication.
A miscommunication between the offices.
Wow.
So she's just been chilling in Winona for a while,
Nice.
which is okay because it's like 40 minutes from her hometown.
Yeah,
where
Winona's nice.
all of her brothers and sisters live. So
Yeah, Winona's nice. And then did you were you and Bryant just hanging out the Sunday I got back, or what did you guys
we
do?
were just hanging out after mass. Could play some Bloodborne for the first time in a while because I've been without wheels for about a month.
Yep. With the exception of tonight, but those are on loan, of course.
Yes, they are. And every time I try to get one, the guy sells it before I have a chance to actually
bummer.
look at it. Like, I arrange a time to look at it at this time, and I'm like, hey, how about that time? And they're like, I already sold it.
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, what the hell?
That was kind of what it was like when we were looking at townhomes this spring, or apartments for that matter. We'd be like, hey, can we look at this? And then it would be occupied like that day.
If you don't rent it a whole month and a half in advance, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, so that was a whole thing. I suppose by the time this episode comes out, Riley could be employed and have a car.
Good. Though the track record thus far does not make the prognosis good, and this is a really bad time of year for becoming employed.
Unfortunately,
People are like, it's the holidays. We don't really feel like doing much.
And then buckle into your current job, get that done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the new year rolls around, and they maybe start thinking about hiring some new people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So who knows? I'll probably get just anything to have some spending dollars.
Get them bills taken care of. So I guess if you're praying for this in the future, God being timeless and all, you can say a prayer for Riley.
Please do.
Yeah.
Just in general. I mean, heck, he could be like the most blessed he's ever been in his life, and you could still pray for him and us.
We would still need it.
Yeah. If God will accept your prayers,
I'm exceptionally bad at rejecting God's grace and trying to do things my own way. So
yeah.
Sarcasm.
speaking of doing things our own way, we're the Palladium Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Riley.
We're slapping the Saltcast on there again, even though it doesn't fit because we haven't come up with another bumper for topics.
And darn, that bumper's too fun.
Yes,
but if we play it every week, it's going to get old.
Yeah.
So we got to think of something for.
We should probably. I mean, because it's about this time. What, 3 years ago we made the bumpers that we have been using.
Like before, like
we were living in 14.
It was in Christmas break.
I think
the
first year.
I think we made them all over Christmas break of
it was either
2019.
Yeah, I think we sat down to record the Christmas special TM episode.
Well, the podcast started in 2020, so at the earliest it would have been like Christmas 2021 or 2020.
And I think when we all sat down to record that Christmas episode with the
Fishers.
John and
Fishers, the yet unmarried Fishers,
the current Fishers.
I think they were engaged at that point,
and they ought to still be the Fishers when we do upload it.
Yes.
Anyway,
long caveat. Here's the Saltcast bumper.
Saltcast warning. Saltcast warning. Saltcast warning. Saltcast warning.
This is a big bummer for me.
All right, make your point, Nathan.
Oh, well, now the Saltcast bumper is over because you edited it right before I said it. My point is, I remember that was the day we recorded it because that was the day we had them here to record, and they were here to record those.
And I had to monkey around with the tiny half-desk thing to get all of our microphones to fit. And I had to download a special driver just so I could plug in multiple microphones to our computer. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was the whole thing. Nobody else really cares about those details, but I do.
No. And you're talking about what you care about on
yes,
this podcast.
And that's what we're doing today. So, yeah. I guess our topic for this week is content creation these days. Am I right?
Well, specifically, I feel like it's going to be our experience with it and our perspective of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do not have an all-encompassing knowledge or sweeping opinion on it.
We can't speak it from a position of long-term success. Just long-term attempts, I guess, at this point.
I don't know if it's quite attempts. We've been doing.
True.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, I mean, attempt at success, I should say.
No, again, I would quibble with that. We have not really attempted to be successful. We have patently understood that we do not want to do what it takes to become successful, and we don't care.
Should we spell out what those elements of being successful are? Content creation for.
Why don't we? Why don't we? Among those things are promoting yourself, which is a thing that, although James is thoroughly qualified to do,
very qualified to do,
does every day and doesn't want to continue doing to make it work.
Yep.
Because that would be just dragging work into home, and that wouldn't be any fun.
More or less.
And
is that a good excuse? No, but it's the one I got.
But it's also, I think it's a valid thing to say. It's like, my success at this podcast is not as important to me as work-life balance.
Yeah.
And that's valid. I think that's a fair thing to want.
Because how many online creators have you heard of having burnout? You know?
Most.
Almost everyone at some point has had their break or whatever from burnout. Or their mental breakdown. Take your pick.
You either take a break or you break down.
So we got self-promotion. What else? Well, trend chasing a little bit.
Right.
You got to ride those.
We don't
analytics.
we do a very niche thing here.
Yes.
Right.
We're specifically targeted towards Catholics. Mm-hmm. Although I think there's something of value for people who aren't Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just
we are self-awarely and intentionally targeted toward Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
We
do banter on the podcast.
We do banter, which not everybody likes.
Unpopular for some reason.
I think banter is popular among people who like banter.
Yes, it is a...
And people who don't are very vocal about
vocal
it.
Minority, yeah.
And for those of you who don't like banter,
Timestamps.
great news. I'm adding timestamps to the podcast, so you can skip it.
So you can go all the way back in time.
This far into our video, far into our podcast, and finally you can skip the banter after listening to us banter and get to this
Which
point.
you probably could have done
For the
if
meager
you
price
cared
of
to do.
reading through my harebrained descriptions of
And
the podcast.
if you're on the mobile app,
Which
you
is
don't
its
even
own
have to do
reward.
that
That's true.
because the mobile supports chapters.
Oh.
Those you can click on the thing in the description and it'll skip you to it on the desktop app, but it doesn't have the chapters thing because it's a little bit easier to navigate on the desktop than it is
Yeah.
on the mobile. So you don't even have to read the harebrained descriptions, although I highly suggest you do.
Oh, they
Yes.
are sometimes the highlight. of
Sometimes. I mean, there are times where I'm just like, this is the Diablo episode. I don't know
I
what
don't
else
have
to
anything
say.
else for you. Here.
life. Sometimes that's just enough character to it. I don't know.
Yes.
And that's we're extremely meme heavy, and
Yes.
you know, Nathan's brother has never hesitated to point that out about us.
Yes.
Even when just hanging out in the side of a room.
Everything
in real
you
life.
say is a meme. I'm like, yes, we're not going to change that because that's so much a part of our relationship.
Yeah.
But
Although, to be fair, at home, we do quote things left and right. It's just what we quote with each other as memes.
Right.
People have been quoting other people for centuries.
Yes.
Like, you
People have been quoting
you
other people for
reference
centuries.
Shakespeare in
Nathan
the
Lassart, 2023.
but like people would reference Shakespeare and stuff like that, and, like Bible quotes all day, right? But you hear us talk about Polish cows dancing and singing about drug addiction.
We did tell
Suddenly
Bryant we were going to talk
weird.
about that on the podcast. So here we are. Polish Dancing Cow, ladies and gentlemen, in all of its glory, being referenced briefly on the podcast and then never brought up again. Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, I can't guarantee we'll never bring up.
Yeah,
Polish
no, it's
Dancing Cow
unlikely.
ever
yeah,
again.
I bet like the next Witcher game that comes out, we could work it in.
Ooh,
Or
yeah.
just CD Projekt Red anything,
Yes.
Although I think they are working on Witcher. 4,
A Witcher.
allegedly.
I don't know if it's
allegedly.
it's a Witcher project. I don't know if it's like Geralt's Witcher or something different. I don't know. Anyway,
If they're following Netflix, then
so
probably not.
self promotion. What was the other?
You know, broad content
appeal.
appeal.
Which there's definitely a benefit to having niche appeal.
We
right?
do have the consistent output, but not like
We did.
we did. I mean, we're getting back
Propadutic
into it
here put a
as we
It
were.
wasn't just Perpetuic Year, but that kind of was the nail in the coffin.
And the distance of Fargo to Indiana and then Fargo to the cities.
We were really consistent during that time.
True.
Though. Like we
Interestingly
recorded
enough.
remotely pretty much every week
Yeah,
during that time.
yeah. We only really hit a skid this year. Like,
Last summer we had a fairly sizable break, and then
yeah,
the year.
between Riley moving back from seminary and us moving to this apartment and just other things going on, it made sense. And sort of wanting to, I guess, readjust our outlook on the pod, or not outlook, but like, I don't know, we just need a breather and a reset. And now we're coming back at it with a more fresh, even though we haven't really substantially changed anything except for adding topics.
And we also we don't put enough effort into what we do. As a rule, sometimes we've had lots of high effort episodes,
Yeah.
but as a rule, we don't really like plan and script and like write something coherent.
There's not enough polish there.
I mean, there have been some things where we take like bullet points where it's like, oh, I wanted to talk about these, but most of it's because
Like the Attack on Titan episode that came out, I don't even know.
I mean, I've done like bullet point outlines for a lot of the stuff that I've done, and
Yeah.
they still get really rambly because we just didn't like have the focus.
And then there's the episodes where we bring in John.
yeah, yeah, you can listen to those.
Yep, he's going to come back on the podcast at some point, I'm sure. Be warned. Anyway,
we know you're listening, John. We are coming for you.
You
You
are-
will be on our podcast.
extensive social media presence. Now, I've sort of become a bit of a Twitter
staple of-
shit poster of my own in some ways without any real followers, but I do the comment on other famous people's posts and get occasional reactions level of things, but that's about the extent of our social media presence. Nathan, you've got your own projects, and we did
do
try
have-
the streaming thing for
we
a
did try
while.
the streaming thing for a while.
And we didn't have the guy who was a Twitch denizen for much of college,
For
one who
all-
actually kind of knows.
except for a
what
couple
to
of
do and how
streams
to
where
do it.
you were feeling kind of sick and didn't really say anything the whole time anyway.
Well, I was usually doing other things while lurking. So.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, like the couple times you were actually like in the room with
yeah,
us while we were streaming. Will I ever release the tapes of the rest of the Zelda playthrough? I don't know.
I want you to, so
I do too, but
but
whenever I have time and I'm sitting in front of my computer, I'm like, I want to do literally anything else right now. But then when I'm thinking about like, oh yeah, I should do that. And then, when I get the opportunity, I don't. Yeah. So yeah, those are sort of the reasons why we like to think we haven't gotten big.
Because we haven't really wanted to.
Yeah.
Or at least have acknowledged that we would rather not do what it takes in order to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're okay with that because that's, at the end of the day, we do this thing for fun and as an excuse to hang out and watch stuff together and talk about it.
Yeah.
Right, because that's what we were doing beforehand without any microphones pointed at us.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, hey, let's point microphones at us and have these kinds of conversations with a bit more schedule and more structure. And then cool.
It's, I think we wanted to do a podcast while we were all still in college. We sort of, the first
James
attempts,
and his many ideas.
Yes.
He has all these grand plans.
I like making things. That's really been my motivation for pretty much everything I've done. I liked sketch videos, so I made sketch videos in college. I liked podcasts, so I wanted to make my own podcast.
I had to drag you guys into doing the podcast.
Yeah,
we wanted to do video format.
Yeah,
I'm
that's true.
No, podcast is better for what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And it took you a while to turn you into a podcast listener yourself.
Yes, I needed basically a pandemic to turn me into one. Well, not even the pandemic. I
having a desk job.
Yeah, it took me
is
having
what
a desk
really
job.
got me into being a podcast.
That's what. Yeah, ultimately got me a desk job and a 20-minute or a 40-minute combined back and forth commute from work made me into a podcast listener. And then there's a whole thing about being not allowed to listen to podcasts because they thought I wasn't being productive or something, even though it was patently not true. That was a whole thing. But yeah, for me, I just enjoy hanging out with the boys and making cool stuff I think is cool. And whether that's videos or podcasts or sketches or friggin' Lego animations back in the day.
I was about to bring that up. You used to watch what of Brickwork Studios?
Brotherhood
Workshop. That's what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah, and then a little bit of forest fire stuff every once in a while. Yeah, I've always, and then there's been other things too where I'm like, man, that would be fun to make because we wanted to make a video game at one point. I mean, I like to think we still do, but like,
still not opposed to it. It just would take a lot of work and organization that would cut into our current, no, not just our fun, but our current schedule of things we do already.
Because time, as it turns out, for human beings is finite or something.
It's a resource.
Yes.
Time is inherently finite.
Yep.
It's not just for humans.
Yeah.
God is atemporal.
That is true. And there, yeah.
If you just got to read Boethius, man, he'll spell it all out for you.
Yep.
But we just talked about this earlier when we were asking for prayers for Riley.
Yes. God being timeless and all. So let's see where are we going to go with this?
Where were we going to go with this?
That's why we haven't gotten big and like where we're going and what we want.
And why
out
we're
of
not
content.
Particularly bothered by not going big.
Right. But like what do we want from here? What are our thoughts on the content creation space in general? This is kind of we take a pivot into what else we're going to talk about here.
Yeah. I guess
there's any number of directions.
We could talk about this sort of the current landscape of content creation because this is where my thoughts sort of originated. So I'm a regular guy. I like to watch a lot of things on YouTube and your streaming services and whatnot. It seems to me that there's a lot of eyeballs and more stuff to watch than there are eyeballs to watch or ears to hear or what have you. Medium. There's people.
More media that exists than senses to consume it.
Yeah.
I think there was a stat some time ago where there's like 9 years of new content uploaded to YouTube every day or something like that.
Something outrageous numbers like that. What can men do against such reckless hate?
Such reckless content.
Yeah. So I was sort of thinking, along these lines of like, why did we get
And here I am watching the Bottom Gear Dark Souls 2 special 4 times.
Yep. And And so, and, you have all the discussion about, echo chambers online, people forming around like certain creators and glomming on to certain ideas, and then just like the ubiquity and saturation of content in every corner, everywhere you look. And it led me to sort of okay, what is the point kind of a moment, like not in a nihilistic way by any sense, but any stretch, but just like,
what are we doing here?
yeah, where are we going with this? Because, and like on this topic of like wanting to get big, I'm like, do we need to? Or is the fact that we are simply making something that we want to make, regardless of how many people watch it or listen to it or what have you, enough on its own right? Because sadly, part of the reason why people depend on large audiences or even just sizable audiences is because stuff costs money to do. And that's sort of another limiting factor is like, we've invested in basically the minimum amounts of stuff we need to make this happen. And
we've invested in free infrastructure.
Yes.
If we had to pay for this podcast, I suspect we would have stopped doing it a long time ago.
Yes. If Riley didn't know how to build an RSS feed using archive.org.
If it hadn't been possible for me to do so using Wix as a backend, because like you can't get free backend hosting for crap anywhere these days.
Mm-hmm.
But they just so happened, and they have like a limited selection of libraries you can use. So it just so happened that they had an RSS
just well
library.
enough.
There was just enough junk that we could get away with doing this for free.
Mm-hmm. And it took like a month of trial and error before we got everything working. And it's worked pretty well ever since. But yeah,
minus one or two hiccups here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on the whole, for not having paid for a dime for any of this, other than like a few pieces of equipment,
a third microphone that we probably would have got, one of us probably would have got anyway.
Well, because we were borrowing one from Mike, so we needed to get our own at some point anyway. Right. But yeah, long story short, I was meditating upon the ways of the world, and I said, vanity of vanities, all things are vanity. Anyway, no. It's tough because, like we said, we don't want to do any of the things to get big because we want to continue doing what we want to do. And
it doesn't necessarily mean we can't. It's just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a Twitter grifter because that's what it would take. Like I would have to spend a lot of time, and maybe it would be fun engaging with, the people that be on the Catholic Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really how most of the Catholic podcasts got their notoriety is by their hosts existing on Twitter.
And there's something to like, unique selling proposition of different contents and things like that. I'm like, are we doing anything in particular that hasn't been done before?
Kind of.
Kind of.
In a way.
In our own way, unique to us, as based on our personalities.
In certain ways, yes. In certain ways, no.
Yeah.
Because like if you want 3 white guys from nowhere talking about movies, you've got that everywhere in every podcast you could ask for.
Yeah.
True. But also it's like we have a specific lens we're looking through that is unique, but also not ubiquitously interesting.
Yeah.
Or desired even.
Mm-hmm. Now, would we complain if suddenly, we just kept doing the things the way we are doing it and it took off? That's happened to some people.
I wouldn't complain if something I did got like 140,000 views randomly.
Or something.
Or something.
The thing is, it was a video I made because I'm like...
Your interests happened to align with where the internet was at the time.
Right, exactly. And also from like... I'm explicitly referencing my Legend of Zelda map theory video.
Go back to however many episodes ago this was, and we did discuss it at the time.
We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
You uploaded that episode.
Yeah, we talked about it 3 weeks from now.
We talked about that 3 weeks from now. But no. But like, it was one of those things where it's like, I made it for myself, right?
Yes.
For one thing, I was looking online, I'm like, I wonder who else has like thought way too hard about how the maps align. And I've seen a couple of videos where it's like, comparing these 2 maps. And I'm like, okay, but where does Minish Cap fit? Mm-hmm. Well, comparing these 2 maps. Well, you compared that map with the other map, the other video, and now it's completely... But also you didn't you didn't think about how they related to each other, but you just... No.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's a void in this space that I want filled. I would like to see a video that went in depth about that. And so I made it. And other people are like, hey, this is the video that's been missing from my internet the entire time. Thank you. And I'm like, you're welcome. I didn't make it for you, but I'm glad you liked it.
There's still little niches in the world that have yet to be filled.
And
apparently.
I think that's like what I want to do with my YouTube videos. It's like, I haven't seen anybody go in depth talking specifically about the effectiveness of Curly Brace as a character as told through gameplay in Cave Story, aside from that brief little bit we talked about it in our podcast episode. And so I'm like, you know what? I'll just make a whole video and it'll be great.
Yeah. There was, or even I guess in my YouTube foibles, I guess, I thought maybe the gaming channel would be an outlet for that.
Turns out there's a lot of work involved in editing gameplay footage.
There's a reason why these big gaming channel people have
Have like
paid
full-time editors.
full-time editors, to do this stuff. And then like sketches. The last video I did was that kidnapping
one?
sketch.
Yep.
Part of the deal with that is I have some like half-formed ideas, and the videos I've made are all of my complete ideas that I have for videos. So there's been a little issue of like inspiration, and then because once you get down to brass tacks and filming a video, it's not that hard. But ultimately, when it comes to content creation, I do kind of believe that there's an aspect of art that needs to be communicative, right? Like, like you're inviting someone into a communion of sorts with your thoughts and the ideas and how you're trying to express them. But there is sort of an element of wanting to make something that's authentic. The word authentic gets used so freaking much.
So much that it loses its authenticity.
Yes. But I'd say a lot of times I think people
Something
say
that's near and dear to your heart,
Right.
that you want to talk about.
yeah, or that I want to create, or like you said, like that's something that important to me,
Right.
And
And like there's a
sometimes it hits for people, sometimes it's not. I mean, because honestly, like most great artists, in whatever form, make things that for the most part they believe are important to them, or at least what they consider their greatest accomplishments are the things that were the most important to them. Oftentimes the things that they were the most successful at weren't necessarily their favorite projects. I mean, they're objective. A lot of the time it's objectively great work.
right.
But how many times have you heard like content creators saying like a video or a thing that I made, I poured my heart into, and that didn't get very much action, but then I followed this little trend thing on the internet and that got millions of views,
Suddenly you're making 67 parts of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just keep dragging it out.
Just keep dragging it out and escalating it with no resolve in sight, because it just keeps the Gen Alpha kids occupied.
Yes.
I don't know. I kind of think it was going that way the whole time.
Yeah. Regardless of which kids are watching it.
Right. But
Yeah. Because we're not about pushing the little dopamine button here.
Dopamine's fine. We're just not seeking it for its own sake.
like
Or to monetize it.
I, in principle, am never going to use the shorts function on YouTube. Like I
What,
could.
you don't wanna
I've got
have-
a bunch of. I've been doing a bunch of like streaming and stuff. I could like make little clips and put the. No, I am not.
You're not going
I
to do
will
a
not.
karaoke style text to speech Reddit posts with a train mobile game in the background.
With
Subway
somebody playing
surfers.
Subway
Minecraft.
servers or somebody playing a Minecraft obstacle course.
Or just like some first person whipping a knife around platformy level that was made in Gmail. I don't.
Yep. And all of these posts look suspiciously like they were written by the same person. Anyway, I suppose there is sort of that. We have sort of witnessed a lot of content, quote unquote, in broad scare quotes, boil down to sort of like this very, like you're stripping down to just the bare nerves and like touching them with sticks that turn on the dopamine. That's where form and matter are just sort of a weird amorphous fun soup.
Fun soup. There's a title.
That's a
episode.
good title.
Weird
Fun
amorphous
soup.
fun soup.
That's an
Weird
episode.
amorphous fun soup.
Amorphous fun soup. This is how much it's destroyed our sense of humor.
I should just have the albino from The Princess Bride on there for no reason. That's what you've heard it here
The
first.
thumbnail can be whatever you want, man. We're not,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we would all agree that there's something more to art than that.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make something more than that.
Yeah.
And the problem with content creation TM is that it has been commoditized to the point where it is just algorithms and numbers and exploiting.
How many people?
Supposing that you want it to be monetarily successful.
Yeah.
Right.
You can do it our way and not give a hoot if you can monetize this deal.
Or say if you have, the good fortune to get big and then you're responsible with the stewarding of the audience that you've created and like your livelihood and so forth around that, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If those happen to coincide for you, that's great. Or if that ever coincides for us, we would navigate that when we get there. But
I'm a little bit navigating that, not like to an extent where it's like my job or anything,
No.
but like to where like, hey, this is little making videos as a hobby thing. Like it made me like $300.
mhm.
Like, hey, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
And like now when I stream, I've got like 4 or 5 people who like rotate through as like regulars. I'm like, hey, it's you. You're watching me play. Yeah, thanks for coming in for from the Zelda video, because everyone who watches my videos stuff came from the Zelda stuff.
You either die a niche creator in some random corner of the internet or live long enough for your podcast to be overproduced with a bookshelf in the background. You're wearing tweed suits and smoking guitar or
Smoking
guitars.
cigars.
Guitar, playing cigar.
Yeah. We've sort of found a sweet spot where the level of investment we are capable / willing to make, both of time and monetarily, is meeting with the stuff we want to make. I like to think that of course, if we had like a sound engineer or something, making the podcast could sound like the best thing you've ever heard, but it's acceptable as far as I can tell, as far as I've been told.
As far as I care.
Yeah. So.
Except for that one bit in Philosophical.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It took switching from a paid to a free software. It's really screwed up that bumper. So for people listening to that in the past, sorry, I guess.
Apologies for
I
the
fixed
future
it.
people in the past.
I did.
He's going to finish uploading those episodes here in 3 weeks.
I did fix it eventually. I did.
It's still a little clippy, honestly.
A little bit, but not as bad as it was.
Not as bad.
Do you need help formatting that? A little clippy?
Yeah. It looks like you're
need-
trying to. It looks like
you
you're trying to do a
need help
podcast bumper. You want some help? I know, Riley, you'd mentioned that sort of your outlook on online presence has changed.
It has. Turns out, when you get off the medias for an entire year, you have some time to reflect on your own media usage and what it means to you. And so I have some thoughts on the matter. And like my online presence prior to the Propedeutic year was largely like, yeah, as I mentioned, I spent a lot of time on Twitch because I enjoy watching people play what I'm currently playing and like seeing how they do it, seeing what tricks and tactics and all that stuff, and like I use it as a learning experience. But I also grew to enjoy interacting with some of the communities, especially when I was playing Hearthstone back in the day, kind of 2017-18 era.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some really fun times with like this particular like team of streamers that all kind of sent their viewers around each other, and it was like the F2K people. Like you always knew the people who hang around the F2K streams. And so like all the viewers would interact with each other, and that sort of grew to be what I expected out of kind of the medium to small Twitch environment. And then as I sort of moved away from Hearthstone and played other stuff, like I found other places didn't have community like that, where there was like viewer to viewer interaction in the Hearthstone community, and I didn't find that really anywhere else. And like have tried to make it, and nobody seems to care. They like, I want to talk to Broadcaster, because if Broadcaster acknowledge me, I get dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, that's so much of what the internet has become today, is just dopamine chasing. And insofar as it was
we be out
it
here
can be-
wanting to live virtuously and keep
Right,
grounded on the.
And like I kept telling myself, I'm gonna be a digital evangelist. I'm gonna evangelize to the corners of Twitch.
You go get him, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I grew to, like, at least it kind of became clear to me that that's not really possible, especially in kind of experiencing some really deep human connection in the propedeutic year, kind of being locked in a old convent with 16 of your new best friends and just like having that opportunity where there's no media, like all your only entertainment is just to bull with each other and be experiencing some really deep friendships that wouldn't have been possible any other way. And just like, that's the kind of community that I really want. Like, and that's the kind of community that's actually going to change people.
Yeah.
It's like that deeply intense personal communion of friends.
And that's the kind of relationship that is very difficult to like facilitate via text.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's extents to which it was possible. Like, it's sort of related. Like, and I think I've shared this story on the podcast, but back in high school, me and my League of Legends buddies would, we'd play with 4 or 5 of us at a time, and sometimes we'd get a random person. And like this one random guy we played with, we had a lot of fun and like invited him to our Skype because that was the thing at the time.
Prior to
Discord's existence. And like we played with this guy a lot, and he eventually like moved to Fargo from Florida for a while and just like worked for one of our friends' dads, and like he lived here for a year, and he's like, I miss Florida. This was really fun, but I think I'm going back home. But like, you have enough of a fun time with a guy that he's willing to move up somewhere 2,000 miles to
there's something to
meet all
for
of
sure.
you. Like, there's some really powerful friendships that are possible in gaming, and like stuff is so you don't see that anymore. That doesn't happen anymore. And that, like, content creation can be a vehicle for that kind of thing, but it seems like nobody wants that anymore, and it's largely because they're disconnected from their own needs and desires. But it's like what I would want to see maybe is, being able to create or facilitate something like that through content creation.
The closest thing I've probably seen to that is like the Crunch Podcast Discord has been quite fun. I enjoy that, maybe a little too much.
Perfect place to grift for our podcast.
Yes.
our mid podcast.
I'm still like on the fence whether or not that's kosher.
Probably.
We'll see.
You got to become a patron, then all things are possible.
Yeah, then you can do anything you want because you have money. That's how the world works, folks.
So I've had my recent adventures in streamer land also. As I made my little VTuber model. I'm like, you know what? I'll use this, and I started streaming. And then I'm like, I'm curious. Are there other like Catholic / Christian like people doing this thing? And I look on Twitter and stuff, and I'm like, oh, there are. And I go into the chats, and some of them are pretty cool. And also, there's like 10 people max in their chats, but they're all like the same people, and they like shift between, like they all kind of share people between people, mostly because a lot of them are streamers who aren't currently streaming but are in the group anyway. So I've lurked in streams and made little connections and like this, and it's like it is a little bit like what you were talking about, but also like very small scale, very specific to just other people who make content currently, and but like they're cool people and they seem to be having fun. And I've even like talked to like, hey, I've got somebody who might be willing to have me walk him through King's Quest game, so that's fun. I might. So, but like that kind of community is possible, but then again, those are all like Christian and Catholic people who are
have a predisposition to want that,
right?
Yeah.
As opposed to your regular streamer I'm going to overgeneralize here, but like they're not oriented that way typically.
And I think part of the impetus for doing the podcast the way we did it and have done it is like, Bishop Barron talks about film and how it shows its Catholicity and its artfulness and that sort of thing, and where these values connect to the faith. And we sort of had aspirations for that to be an avenue for people as well.
And then we realized that Bishop Barron has his own brain that is a certain caliber, and we've got what we've got.
I mean, I have got a pretty high caliber brain. I'm just not as old as he is and haven't studied as much as he is.
Yep, exactly.
Nor do I have a magenta zucchetto and the following that comes with that.
Half the time, the caliber of my brain doesn't quite fit in the caliber of my mouth, so it doesn't like come out properly.
You don't want to have like a catastrophic failure of your mind gun, so to speak.
Exactly. The mind gun.
Yeah.
That's like, I found that I'm kind of a overthinker. I pause a lot and stammer a lot because I'm processing what I'm saying as it comes out. I'm not good at like on the spot stuff as much. So I feel like I kind of thrive when I'm like doing my scripted videos and editing them down like very specifically. But here, unless I like have something prepared or that I know I need to talk about, I can sometimes struggle to make the caliber of my brain fit the caliber of my mouth, if you will.
Yep.
Sometimes I'm like, wait, was that the right word? Look it up afterwards.
Yeah. While we're on this sort of topic, if here's the part where I say, if you ever catch me being an influencer someday, kill me.
An influencer TM.
Oh my gosh.
Copyright.
That is the thing I'd say is probably like what we very much do not want to be. Influencer as in professional grifter, essentially, for some brand or set of things, etc. We're not going to do product reviews. We're not going to be sponsored to promote somebody's movie or anything like that, or anybody's prayer app.
Sponsored
like
by
that.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Yeah.
I think we would take Great Edge just for the meme.
For the meme.
We would take a sponsorship for Raid Shadow.
Even though I see mobile RPG, ew.
That sounds like a normal RPG to me.
Sounds like an RPG.
Sounds like
without
predatory
buttons.
monetization to me.
Yeah.
Sounds like mobile.
Yuck.
Sounds like Teen Spirit.
Gross. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this has been a bit of a rambly episode,
It
but
was a little bit
that's
random.
okay.
So where are we going with this, boys?
Where are we
What's
going?
the point?
Let's try to
What
wrap
do
this,
we want
wrap
this
this all
to
back
be?
together.
What do we want this to be? Have we? I mean, I have to confess, I haven't really seriously put a whole lot of thought into this. So I guess
I think the kind of main takeaways are that what we want to do is create things that are meaningful to us and that have our unique perspective, and also to build community. But the wider media space is about
it's not super
dopamine.
conducive to that.
It's not super conducive to that. It's very streamlined to. It's very predatory. Very if you're not monetized or can't monetize us, then we're not gonna give you any spotlight.
I mean, we could go on and on about how platforms are giving content creators a pittance for basically making them their business.
While also giving them less options. I am mad at YouTube. They took away my ability to say, no, I do not want you to play mid-rolls on my videos. Those suck. And I'm angry. It's like, I was going to be the cool guy that only allowed them to have skippable ads. And I can't pick between skippable and non-skippable anymore. So there's going to be non-skippable ads in my video. And I don't want to watch a video with non-skippable ads. Why would I put non-skippable ads on my video?
Stuff like that. Yeah.
So, folks, take it from someone who's lived it. What you really want is genuine human connection.
Yep.
So go get it. Content is good. It's cool. It's fun. There's lots of good things with it,
And
but that's not what you really want. I can tell you that's not what your heart really desires. Go build some foundational, vulnerable human community with people that you can really trust and love, and that'll get you all the dopamine you want.
Because after all, that's how this podcast came to be in the first place.
It's true.
3 bros sitting in a basement talking about whatever
Being
movie we
dudes.
had just talked about or just watched. And you're like, you know what? Let's record this.
Drinking a lot of beer, playing Minecraft. That one time.
That one time.
That one time.
Yeah, that's ultimately what this all came out of and where it's kind of going.
And what you should do if you want something similar.
Yeah. I mean, if you want, and I guess this can sort of be a sort of
Capstone.
capstone. Oh, that's the word I'm looking for. Gosh dang it. Transition. There we go. This can be a sort of transition into the outro, but if you like this podcast and want to form a human connection by sharing it with somebody, by all means do that. But heck, even the listener base of this podcast was formed out of friendships we made in the outside world for the most part, or certain people to whom we are related to, and
Right.
not much you can do about that,
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Nathan's mom. Sorry, it's not on Stitcher anymore. We can't really do anything about that.
We can't do anything about that because it doesn't exist.
But yeah, form them real human connections. Touch grass, as the kids say.
It's going to get increasingly harder to do that as you upload this when it's snowing.
Yeah, potentially. Or if you
really
hay
wanted
fever.
to, you could touch grass.
Yeah.
You could dig up
You just gotta
4
dig.
feet of snow.
Honestly, that's like a metaphor for the current media landscape. You've got to dig through a lot of snow or other substances, insert yourself.
You have to break
to touch the
through a
grass and
plastic fake lawn to plant your real tree. As the great Taylor Swift and whoever the heck that kid was in
The Lorax.
The Lorax.
The Illumination movie that was not good most of the time.
No, but my 3-year-old nephew at the time loved it, so we watched it far more than is humanly reasonable.
There's like a good animated Lorax from like the 60s.
Well, yeah, in that original.
And he speaks for the trees.
Yes. I guess that was mostly what I had to say about this.
I've spoken the piece that I think I had to bring to the table here.
Yeah.
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 Good
So
talk.
I'm gonna keep making stuff because I think it's fun, and I think it's cool. I think it's neat.
I just think it's neat.
Yeah. And if people like it, that's awesome. I do.
And we are
I
going
do
to
say
aspire to something more than amorphous fun soup.
yes.
I may make a few things that are like, I'm unreasonably angry about this and I need an outlet to to express that.
I will say there's a great joy in forming connections with people over a cool thing that I made.
Oh, absolutely.
That's something that has been quite edifying for me in my life. But I don't need a million random strangers on the internet.
But sometimes, like, the best
To
compliments
affirm
you
that.
can get about something you made is from somebody who knows you personally. It's like, hey,
That was really
that was
cool.
really good.
Yeah.
Really cool. Like, I felt that way when your brother-in-law complimented me on my cave story video. I'm like, you were very specific in your praise of that. And I thank you. And me coming from a guy that I, personally know and personally knows me is like,
And
you have a lot of
personally,
insight.
and personally came from the same person as I did.
He even got the direct jab at you I made in that
Yeah.
video.
Wait, which one was that?
And have you seen the cave story video?
I haven't actually watched the cave story video yet.
Watch it. You'll know what I'm talking about. You'll know
Okay.
the very specific jab at you I made.
Oh, all right then.
Only visually.
Yes. All right then. Which probably nobody else will get, but
Unless they've seen our Twilight Princess playthrough.
okay. Wait. Was this about the Z thing on the floor? I did see that. I was like, all right. Well, cool beans.
Beans. How do we end this?
I guess.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Playing Papist. You can We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can email us at platingpapers@gmail.com.
Please email us.
Give
Give us your requests that aren't Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Yes. If we ever reactivate nobody would probably look at it on Facebook except for my relatives for some reason. Then it would feel weird. But if I ever reactivate the Plating Papers Twitter, although having podcasts Twitter accounts doesn't seem to work anymore anyway, but if you see me on Twitter, I guess I'll be like brown nosing to somebody I like. Well, that sounds really weird. I'll be dropping
Shilling the podcast.
Sure. I'll try to shill the podcasts.
If you see me on Twitter, hello to people on Twitter who
When
came
I'm
to this
photoshopping
podcast
Jordan
from-
Peterson into Half-Life 2 as G-Man, and currently my most popular tweet at a whopping 132 likes or whatever it was. Anyway, we should probably wrap this up. So we'll talk to you in the next episode, whenever the heck that happens. Merry Christmas, Happy Easter. We don't know. You don't know either. It could be Valentine's Day or the day after tomorrow for all we know. So get back into your disaster movie theater seat, and I don't know. I'm just gonna be done. Bye.
Happy birthday.
For all we know.